I think one shouldn't be too smug about the incidents of anti-Semitism in France, because we have similar hate in the UK, and we need similar education here. I can think back to the story of the Hasidic boys who were spat at and attacked in the heart of London while they were celebrating Hanukkah. And Rabbi Schneor Glitkenstein, who organizes bus tour of the Lubavitch boys, and when they got to Oxford Street, they began dancing, and in a few minutes later, some young men playing Arabic music from their phones apparently danced with them, and then suddenly became aggressive, making sort of abusive comments, talking about free Palestine. Yep, there is room for political debate, and there's definitely room to talk about the problems in Israel, the problems with Palestine. But the spitting and the banging on the windows, this whole thing escalated. There's a story going back a few years now about how a family was so frustrated with being spat at in the street that they left Britain. If we're not doing enough to educate children, and we're not, because the focus of education in schools probably would be in a lesson like PHSE. I've taught PHSE. It's a useless program. There isn't a program. You search around for textbooks, for help, and it isn't there. And because there's such an effort not to cause offence, these lessons can easily dissolve or devolve into vague platitudes rather than specifics. So children need specifics. They need to know what anti-Semitism is. They need to know what prejudice is, and they need to know how to avoid that. They also need to know how to embrace inclusivity, reciprocity, friendship, and positivity. And those two things need to be balanced and need to be promoted. In terms of religious education, I despair at the rubbish which is being taught at the moment. And I've been into schools, I've seen it, I've been expected to teach it. Again, it's vague and woolly and dispassionate. Religion is about tapping into the deepest ways to articulate our identity. And there's very little difference, really, between the religion of today and the religion which is often defined as mythology and turns up in books by Stephen Fry. It's about the passionate articulation of belief. And that underpins our civilization. We need to learn about it. Children need to learn about the contributions made not only by Judaism and Christianity to our society, but also particularly by Islam. And without Islam, without the extraordinary foresight of the and desire of the caliphs of Baghdad to compete with northern cultures, to have the greatest library, we wouldn't have started to assemble that that meeting of of minds, that meeting particularly between Indian mathematics and Greek mathematics, which gives us modern maths. And so much of it preserves the Arabic names, algebra, for example, an Arabic name. And we should celebrate that part of our common shared history, as indeed the poetry and the beauty of the three great religious books. But we shouldn't stop there. We should ensure children. We trivialize religion by talking about rites of passage, by talking about worship, these absurd things. We should be talking about the poetry of the great texts, which we don't study. We should be talking about the music, which we don't study. Instead, we talk about these rites of passage, which are useful, but they're not as significant. They don't get as deeply into our culture. We don't share the rites of passage. We do share mathematics, for example, and a better form of religious education is an education which can tap into those elements we share, those elements we have inherited from the huge activity of these three big religions. Christianity was the religion that preserved literature and literacy during the Dark Ages. It gave us the prototype of modern schooling, and certainly of university. And as indeed does the mosque. It's not for nothing that a Sinan mosque in Istanbul resembles an Oxford college in its layout. You go in from the busy street through the small gated wall into this silent courtyard, maybe with a fountain. And on one side is the mosque. On the other side are buildings and rooms given over to eating and sleeping sometimes and studying, exactly like an Oxford college. We have so much in common, and we fail to celebrate that. And we look over tut-tut about what's going on in other countries, and we think we are okay. We're not okay. And the problem is not our newspapers. Our problem is our education. Our education is messed up. We have got so obsessed with the idea of Piaget and the idea of education through experience, which works, and we haven't supplied all the experience, and we need to bring in more experience. And Piaget is then reinforced by Vygotsky in Russia, in my university, oddly, and he was also reinforcing this idea of learning through doing, of learning through education, or through experience, and that should go on all the way through our educational life, all the way through our life beyond school and university, beyond school and apprenticeship. It's about the joy of doing, the joy of discovery. We have the tools. The process will change, and the process, the tools are our relationship with one another, our ability to discuss and to learn through discussion, to learn through debate, to exchange differing ideas, to enjoy that exchange. rather than the older tradition of learning by rote, of looking to a teacher who is giving you all the information that you then learn, and you are then corrected on the basis of whether or not your information tallies with the teacher's. That's an older system, and yet that is a system that still seems to dominate. Even if we use the rhetoric of Piaget and Vygotsky, it's the system that the teacher is in charge, the teacher is the source of everything. It's not true. Children know it's not true. University students certainly know it's not true, because a teacher can no longer be the source of all information. And just as we start questioning the teacher, we then start questioning all the certainties in our life. Well, questioning can be good, but if we haven't been trained in how to question and how to draw answers and how to recognize a multiplicity of truth, then we are heading towards bigotry and prejudice and hate, and we are living in a world where we are swayed by whoever screams the loudest, whoever has the most resonant slogan. That is not a world of common sense. That's a world of noise and nastiness.